Joe and Jason, happy Thursday. I hope it finds you well out there as, wow, what a crazy not quite 24 hours, about probably 20 hours or so since we heard from our new Federal Reserve Chairman, Kevin Warsh, yesterday. We're going to update you. He talked really tough, or did he? 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number, of course. Gold and silver, the physical delivery of it. Crypto, right? We do some of that, too. We help you do that as well. AllAmericanGold.com is the website. Before we get into Kevin Warsh, we did get jobless claims, and they're about the same. 226,000 on the jobless claims. And I guess it's a little higher. The last 3 or 4 weeks, we've gone, say 220 to 230, where before we were like 210. But overall, not a huge deal. We did get an early signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, and I'll just say this, and I think all of us, if you've read what is in this memorandum, you're like, wow, that's a pretty good deal for the Iranians, and it was. Like, that was a lot for what seems like very little. And, of course, we'll see what happens, later down the road as far as does Iran do all the other things. But as of right now, things are open. Ships are going through. Oil is going through. It's as far as Americans go, it's a good thing. I saw gas prices here down to $4.25. I think gas in Arizona will be below $4 very soon. We'll see how much lower it can go after that. But here's what this is just me. I think it was really simple. Why did we do it? Why now? And why so generous? Because it really was, right? Hey, blockade's over. Let's open up the strait. We're going to commit $300 billion to, I don't know, I guess, repair, rebuild, what have you, inside of Iran. If they follow through all this stuff, right, take all the sanctions off. It was a really generous deal. And, of course, the Lebanon thing ends and whatnot. And we'll deal with the nuclear stuff later. That was kind of the deal, right? We're running out of oil. A news broke. So yesterday we got oil inventories, and we just couldn't keep going. And we were talking about how long do we have till $150 oil. And yesterday, word came out about 3 weeks. That was when the United States would be at a situation where they wouldn't be able to provide the amount of, whether it was oil, gas, diesel, whatever it may be. Hey, you can't have that much anymore because we're out. So a deal had to be struck, or, right, we have $150 oil. So I'm all for the deal. I'm all for it. I've been saying this for a while. This did appear like, hey, we're going to take our ball and go home. We proved our point, and let's take our ball and go home. Let's hope that's what happens. Obviously, this could restart some later. I hope not. Right? Because I think it'll just be the same thing all over again. But, hey, we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. But then we had Kevin Warsh and the Federal Reserve, and it was extremely interesting. So first, the speculation all week was, hey, we're going to get rid of the dot plot. They did not. However, Kevin Warsh did not participate. In other words, he didn't put his dots in, and then essentially said, hey, yeah, I don't know that there's a lot of value in it. But they do it. They've been doing it. So for right now, we'll keep doing it. He talked very, very aggressively. So yesterday, I don't know if you noticed, right? Gold was what, 43.80 at the kind of near the top there. All day had been around 43.50, 43.60. Gold lost $100. The Dow was up 2 or 3, not a lot, but 200 or 300 points. It ended up losing 500 on a lot of very tough talk. But here's what's interesting about Kevin Warsh's meeting. He essentially said, hey, all this data, it's not very good and it's old and we're making decisions. We're going to have to change it. Talk about that next. 800-951-0592. So Kevin Warsh making some changes. First so before he talks, they release what they call the policy statement. And it's kind of funny. So it's just a couple of pages. And what they do is, it's kind of old school. They put red lines through what the policy statement was 6 weeks ago. If it's changed, right? If they change some, like the date changes, so they put a red line through the date. Kevin Warsh pretty much put a red line through the whole thing. And then released a very brief policy statement, like a third of the normal size. So that was the first thing. People were like, whoa. And then, of course, the dot plot, which he didn't participate in. And then we waited for the meeting. And, of course, everyone viewed those two events as being hawkish. Now, Kevin Warsh, before when he was at the Fed, so he was a Fed president, right? So and I forget which district Warsh oversaw. I would have to look it up. But he was kind of a hawk back then. And then, of course, a lot of people are like, well, obviously things have changed. But when he got on stage, he was, I will say this, very, first off, he's very smart. He used a bunch of big words, kind of a little like Greenspan, but he's not very soft-spoken. So he was in there to convey that he's the head guy in charge. And very forceful in his tone. I don't think he was very diplomatic. And essentially said, hey, we are going to change how we do things. Now, here's what was interesting, because I'm listening to him, and they're going to create like 4 or 5 different task force, all about data. And he went on to say, hey, we do a really bad job of getting timely data. Companies, they have better data than we do, and we're going to fix it. Now, one of the things that I liked about what Kevin was saying was he wants Wall Street to be much less dependent on the Federal Reserve. Which I agree, right? We've gotten to this point. And Alan Greenspan kind of made this change. The Fed didn't used to say much back in the day. You hardly heard from them. Matter of fact, they wouldn't even have a press conference after every meeting like they do today. Because they wanted to essentially prevent what we have today, which is Wall Street kind of, hey, we're going to tell the Fed what to do, and as long as they're doing what we think we're going to do, right, we can, go higher in pricing. So now he says they're going to do less of that. We'll see. If they do, I think that would be a good thing, right? Just because, hey, it would help in making these bubbles not as big, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But he repeatedly said in that statement, repeatedly, they were going to get back to 2% inflation. They were going to do it. And then the questions started coming. And I would say that some of the reporters, I think, figured it out. Most of them didn't. They were just like shell-shocked, right? Oh, my gosh. Oh, whoa. We thought this guy was going to be cool, right? Come in and, take a soft first step, right? It's your first meeting. Instead, worst came out here. I'm going to knockout punch. Multiple times. They just a couple of the reporters. Well, if that's the case, why didn't you raise rates? It was a great question. And, of course, he came down with that's not where the committee's at. We got to look at things, a bunch of wish-wash stuff. But make no mistake, we're going to get there, right? Very clear to me, the Federal Reserve is going to change the data. That was the big takeaway from the meeting yesterday. Essentially, Kevin Warsh, now, again, guys, I don't know. Do I believe it? The Fed has bad data? Okay. I hope not. But that's what he's saying. But they're going to fix it. Yep, they're going to fix it. And they're going to use better tools. And we're going to get inflation. Enough of this inflation. We're going to get back to it. He was asked about the 2%. And he just reiterated, hey, we're going to have stable prices. So he didn't confirm or deny. Of course, a lot of us going into this were expecting maybe that Kevin Warsh was going to raise the inflation number. I think they've got a different plan. Change the data. Let's change the data instead of raising the number. So we'll see. So kind of a little bit like Greenspan, right? Greenspan did that in the 90s. changed the data, right? And all of a sudden, we entered this era of low inflation that we hadn't seen in, well, ever since the Fed took over. I mean, it wasn't the no inflation like the gold standard, but all they did was change the number. And you can see it, right? Standard of living's kind of, we got a bigger divide of haves and have-nots. But that looks like what is going to happen, as he kept repeating, the committee will deliver price stability. Now, what does that mean? I think it was pretty clear that in Kevin Warsh's mind, right, we're just going to change the data. That's what I think we're going to expect. That's what I expect from it. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But it was deemed a hawkish meeting. I don't know, right? They didn't raise rates. The dot plot, for those that filled it out, looked like one rate hike for the year. And I think that's kind of where we were going into the meeting, whether we want to admit it or not. But right now, the Dow today up 200, up 160. The S&P up 65. The NASDAQ's up 300. News, Apple raising prices. And they're going to do something with Intel. The 10-year note, interesting, right? Because this was supposed to be very hawkish. The bond market isn't buying it. I wonder if they're thinking the way I'm thinking. 4.42 on the 10-year note. Crude oil down a couple of dollars, $74 on crude oil. Gold right now is down $15, $42.45. Silver down $1.79 at $66. And you know what I'm going to tell you. Keep buying here. It is interesting through all of that talk. So here's what we've got in store for us. We got a Fed chief now that pounded the table on price stability and then essentially said, we're not raising rates, which was odd. So how are we going to get price stability? Well, then he told us, hey, we're going to change the data. So something to look forward to. It definitely was an interesting tone. Pretty aggressive. I'll say that. I was caught off guard. I put me in the camp. I thought he was going to be kind of soft-spoken and saying, hey, I'm getting my feet wet here. A lot of things have changed. He did mention that he didn't think, in lieu of, the Iran thing, that a lot of the data was worth talking about. But anyway, I think the big takeaway here that I think people are missing, I don't think he's as hawkish as they think. I think he's got a different plan. Call it a good one, but a different one. Then, of course, we heard from Apple. Hey, costs are just too expensive. Had nothing to, here's the sad part, nothing to do with fuel. Apple just saying, hey, the stuff that goes into the phones and the tablet, right there, we're raising the price. And then, by the way, we're going to work with Intel to design a new chip. So good news for, because the government now owns part of Intel. So I guess the fascism lives. And then because when we get back, Congress did something that all of us need to pay attention to about central bank digital currencies. So I'm going to preface, the show's going to get a lot more interesting in the second half here. I hope this isn't a trend. So what was it? Last month? Was it last month? Yeah, last month. Somebody torched the Kimberly-Clark warehouse, remember, right? And I don't mean to laugh, it wasn't funny, right? All the toilet paper burned. Yesterday, this thing, it was a massive fire in L.A. where this is a regional cold food supply hub. So it supplies frozen food, right? You know, think about a grocery store, the frozen aisle, for a lot of the Southwest. The whole thing caught on fire, flames as high as 1,000 feet. Well, I guess that's one way to get rid of some stuff. We'll be back. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Thursday. Very interesting Federal Reserve meeting. I'll be honest. I've been watching Federal Reserve meetings for like 23 years. That's insane. That's just dumb. This was one like I'd never seen. Honestly, it really. I guess it's easy to talk really tough when you know you're just going to change the data. And I don't know how many people didn't put that together. We're going to create all these task force. Why? Because the data we're getting is not good. How can that be when you're the Fed? Right? You're not going to convince me that you don't know what the data is. Sorry. That's just not going to fly. You're not going to convince me of that. Instead, this is just what I heard. Well, we're just going to change it. Right? And then, guess what? We'll claim price stability once again. So we'll see who's right. By the way, I only brought up that pallet. If you haven't seen this fire in California, you got to check it out. It was nuts. So, as you guys know, I used to work in retail a long, long time ago. And I've been in the Phoenix warehouse that stores all the frozen food. Guys, it's enormous, right? So when you think of a building, right, and they've got truck bay after truck bay after truck bay after truck bay after truck bay, like a whole city block of truck bays. Well, that's what this thing was.
Is the whole thing on fire?
Oh, yeah, it burnt all to the whole thing. Nothing was saved. The whole thing burned to the ground yesterday. Flames got between 500 and 1,000 feet.
Yeah, so I don't know. This puts me back to late 2020 and 2021 when all the food companies started burning to the ground and smashing right before the inflation.
So, before you jumped out, I'm like, I hope this isn't a trend.
It
right?
sure seems that happened before the inflation in 2021.
Remember last month someone burnt down the toilet paper warehouse, but that was a disgruntled employee. I don't know about this one.
Well, that's what the story was. Yeah.
95,000 pallets. Whoa. Is and
how many containers? How many containers? Is that a couple of containers? Maybe 2 containers?
That would be the big trucks that, deliver to Walmart. Yep. About 22 pallets fit on a truck.
Whoa.
So that'd be about 4,318 semis. A lot of food got burnt up, okay?
That's several containers then. Sounds like that'd be like 1,000 shipping containers.
Yeah, it's a lot. It would definitely be a lot. So we'll keep our eye. If your frozen food section looks a little light, you may know why.
Well, what JD told me yesterday, because we're thinking about fixing the fences over there at the tower, and JD does he does concrete and
right.
He said galvanized steel was told by where he buys it is going to double in price here in about 2 weeks. galvanized steel is going to double in price. So I don't know. Some stuff's happening, Joe.
Well, Apple raised prices yesterday. I told everyone, listen, here's where we were at for Iran. Just to recap real fast. We were going to be out of extra oil in 3 weeks. That was oil inventories came out yesterday, down another 8-9 million barrels. Cushing, Oklahoma, the lowest going back 2 decades. And then the strategic oil reserve, the lowest going back to the early 1980s when we were still filling it up. So it is maybe a deal because, okay, you got 2 weeks, otherwise oil's going to 150, and I think they optioned on the side of, we'd definitely lose the midterms then. I don't know. But, okay, so think about all the smoke screens, right? Well, Kevin Warsh was delivering this, big bravado, and we're gonna rein in this inflation. But we're not going to raise rates. Right? Well, they didn't, right? I mean, but they're going to change that. Here's what the House and Senate were up to. They reached a deal that they are going to move forward with a housing bill. I don't know if it has to do with housing, but a bill, from Congress, and starts in the House. They've apparently reached a deal that the Federal Reserve won't be allowed to create a digital currency. And I was like, wow, right? Blew my mind.
I think it's already been created.
Well, guess what? If you didn't click on it, right? If you didn't click on it, wow, the Federal Reserve is going to ban a central bank digital currency.
They don't need it.
Huh. Well, guess what? Till 2030.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's the just in case part of it.
That's the well, look at we're on your side. Well, just till 2030. So is that, to me, right? Are they kind of saying, hey, we've got about 3.5 years left or so, and then all of a sudden,
aren't stable coins just centrally banked digital currencies? I mean, isn't that? I mean, it's the petrodollar. Isn't stable coins just the petrodollar? And the more stable coins there are, the more the dollar interferes with crypto. So I don't think they need it, Joe.
Well,
I don't think they need it.
It's funny because the clause expires December 31st, 2030. However, Jason's pretty smart, you guys. I don't know if you guys have figured this out or not. They carved out a crypto stable coin or dollar-denominated currency that is open, permissionless, and private. That's what it says.
Oh.
So are we saying that this bill is going to allow for the Federal Reserve to create its own stable coin? But don't worry, it's not a central bank digital currency, at least not yet. So
they're not going to create a centrally banked digital currency. Central bank digital currencies, plural.
800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason, $20 gold. Listen, better deal today. Right? $42.95. Awesome. I think that was about the low that we had it the last time. I don't expect this to last very long. I think people are slowly starting to put the dots together here, but it was so. What a great God! You got to give them credit. You really do. So Kevin Warsh has all the attention, talks real big, tells us that now we have to believe that the Federal Reserve, it's a data problem, right? That's the problem. It's if we just had better data, right, we can make things look a whole lot better. And then Congress essentially saying, hey, we are going to authorize the Federal Reserve to be able to create a stable coin. I don't know, what that is going to look like. Now, they say this stable coin will be permissionless and private. And I don't know what that means. Right? Permissionless just means, hey, anybody can buy it, right? You don't need permission. Are they going to have their own blockchain? Are they, I don't know. I just don't know. And then they say private. But do they want us to believe, hey, you can buy our stable coin and we'll pretend we won't know who you are? By the way, yeah, they know who you are. Yeah. I know that a lot of people think, well, I'm using some type of VPN and masking and this and that. No. They know who you are. But something that is interesting was, okay, we won't make a central bank digital currency at least till the end of 2030. And I think Jason's probably right. Do they need a central bank digital currency? If only, I guess, if things got really, really bad, then maybe, right? If the currency completely fell apart, then possibly. But this is kind of, I don't know, a roundabout way of maybe, hey, we're not calling it a central bank digital currency, but we do have a central bank stable coin. I don't know, right? Is this part of the, hey, this is how we're going to help say there's no inflation? I don't know, Jason, but very interesting that this happens kind of on the same day that Kevin Warsh is out there talking real tough to, I don't know how many people listen to the Fed like me. Probably not that many, but, enough people. Interesting. And again, I think it highlights why it is, too, that we've talked a lot about, hey, guys, better learn how to operate in this space because it's coming.
I mean, it only takes, for a digital currency, it just takes any time the printing machine goes off that those dollars can be sent, bought, moved, traded into a stable coin. Right, Joe? I mean, where is Tether now? They're a top 10 holder of treasuries?
Yeah, right.
Well, how long will it be before they're top 5 or even number 1? If Tether became the number 1 holder of U.S. treasuries, is that not a form of a digitally backed digital currency? And it's a stable coin. It's not Bitcoin. It's a stable coin, 1-to-1 to the dollar. Tether is literally 1-to-1 to the dollar. How is that not a centrally banked digital currency? By the way, who really owns that? And how did that get started? Right? I mean, I'm sure there's a story there that's out there that's popular for crypto guys. I mean, and all you have to do is create another one. And I don't even know what is this. I'm sure there's a stable coin for the yen, a stable coin for the yuan, right? And I bet they're all exchangeable, right? So I just
and somehow we're going to work together. I don't know.
While you're sitting there looking at the Fed doing something, it's being created right there for them, And whoever controls the flow of the stable coin, hey, look what happened during the Iran war. $80 billion in cryptos got frozen,
Right.
Well, that it seems strange to me for all these exchanges, these crypto exchanges that are not American, to suddenly take out ArbCore, which is one that that I was just dabbling with. I had got my position set up. 3 days later, it was locked because it was involved in this. We're freezing Iran's $80 billion in crypto, and this ArbCore project that I was in, or that I'm in. They suffered the consequences for, I guess, tainted accounts. Well, tainted accounts. What does the United States of America have to do with some Russian crypto company? Why are you shut? Well, because the crypto exchange. Well, if they're not American crypto exchange. Well, because all the central banks work together, which means all those crypto exchanges are going to catch heat from the same central banks. I think it's a central bank digital currency stablecoin, Joe.
Wow. Right in front of our eyes, and we almost missed it. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Again, $20 gold, $42.95. As it appears that Congress has reached a deal that will allow for the creation of a crypto stable coins. Now, listen, they said coins, like plural. Is there going to be more than one? Or dollar-denominated currencies that is open, permissionless, and private. Jason was kind of talking about, there's no such thing as private. None. Zero. Nada. I know that a lot of people want to believe that it is, but it isn't. And allowing the government, this was the whole point, right? This is the whole point of getting a crypto. Hey, something that the Fed can't control, right? Something that the banks can't control. Listen, this is it, right, Jason? It's coming, and they're going to make sure that, hey, guess what? Hey, thanks a lot for working all the kinks out. Here we come now, and it's going to be our turn.
Correct. And we don't really know who's actually making the decisions and having the influence on this stuff. Nobody follows the exact purchases and decisions and, Tether. Who made the decision for Tether to get heavy in treasuries, right? I mean, on its face, right. It looks like the petrodollar. So, yeah, it's, but here's the other thing. It doesn't really matter what the asset is. Someone's going to be able to want to buy it in dollars. So it's going to be dollar denominated. The whole thing about Bitcoin was that it was going to be something different. Bitcoin did sort of shove its weight into the scene, whether it's government created or not. Because, Joe, it is like gold in one way. It has its own value that has to fluctuate. Stable coins don't fluctuate. It's tied to the dollar, right? That's what that's what a centrally banked digital currency would be. And they don't have to create it. All they have to do is flood the world with dollars, make sure that Donald Trump closes up all the choke points across the world and forces everyone into an inflative cycle and make sure everyone has to spend dollars. And then suddenly, well, you know what? Maybe I'll get into this crypto thing. Great. Make sure you have enough stablecoin.
Right.
And that's it. That's it. I mean, just like you need oil to drive your car, you're going to need stablecoins to move your money.
Wow.
Pretty much here. I mean, there's no nations left to fight against this thing. Venezuela got bought up, and it sure looks like Iran may have cut a deal too. So that's it. Flock cameras to the rescue.
800-951-0592 as we are wrapping up this Thursday. And if you guys, like I said, you want to start getting involved in crypto, it's coming. Reach out to us. Whether that's getting into Orem, getting into even just getting into the exchanges, setting up accounts, Texacoin, Iskander, whatever it may be. Here's the good part. At least you're going to have our help in getting educated in how to operate in this new space. God bless everybody. Jason and I, we will be back again tomorrow.